It started with a phone call. I wasn't supposed to be awake. My mom told me to go to bed at 9, but I was watching cartoons on my tablet with the volume low, hiding under the covers. The babysitter, Jess, was downstairs watching TV. She didn't care as long as I wasn't running around. Then the phone rang. It wasn't the house phone. It was Jess's cell. I could hear it from my room. It rang once, then again, then again. She picked up. I could hear her voice. At first normal, then weird, then quiet. I turned off my tablet and listened. She said, "Who is this?" There was silence. Then louder she said, "How did you get this number?" Another pause. I slid out of bed and tiptoed to the stairs, peeking down. Jess was standing in the living room. The TV was still on, playing some boring show about rich people arguing. The glow made shadows dance on the walls. Jess was breathing fast. She said, "I don't know who you are, but you need to stop calling me." Then she hung up. She turned around like she was going to sit back down. The phone rang again. She picked up right away. "What do you want?" she snapped. She was trying to sound mad, but I could tell she was scared. There was silence. Then, in the quiet, I heard something. A knock at the front door. Jess froze. I stopped breathing. The TV kept playing, but now it sounded far away. Jess turned her head slowly, staring at the door. Knock, knock, knock. Not loud, not soft, just waiting. She whispered, "Who is it?" No answer. She took a step closer. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell her not to open it, but I didn't. I just stood there. She reached for the lock. Then her phone buzzed in her hand. She flinched and looked down. The screen lit up her face, and she sees a text from the same number. "Don't open the door." Jess's hand jerked away from the lock like it burned her. She took a step back, breathing hard. The knock didn't come again. The house was so quiet I could hear the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. Her phone buzzed again. Then another text. "I see you." Jess turned fast, looking out the windows. They all had curtains, but I could tell she was trying to see past them, trying to figure out if someone was outside. I felt sick. I wasn't supposed to be out of bed, but I wanted to go down there, wanted to tell her to call my mom, to call the police. But I didn't move. Then the phone buzzed again. It said, "He's inside." Jess let out a little gasp, like a hiccup. She spun around, looking at the back door, then the hallway, then the stairs, right where I was standing. Our eyes met and I saw her face change. She was trying to act normal, trying not to scare me. She swallowed and gave me a small smile. "Hey, but," she said, "why aren't you in bed?" I didn't answer. I was too scared. She walked towards me slow. I took a step back. Then we both heard it. A sound from the kitchen, like a shoe scuffing against the floor. Jess stopped walking. I saw her hand tighten around her phone. Then a chair moved. Not fast, not loud, just someone shifting and sitting down, waiting. Jess reached behind her and grabbed the nearest thing, a lamp off the table by the couch. She held it like a bat. She whispered, "Go back upstairs." I didn't want to. She whispered again, harsher, "Go." So I ran. I ran back to my room and shut the door. I grabbed my blanket and crawled under my bed, heart slamming in my ears. Downstairs, I heard Jess's footsteps. They were slow and careful. I heard the floor creak. I heard her breathing. Then I heard her say, "Who are you?" And there was silence. Then, I heard the sound of something falling. A crash, a scream, then running. Jess's footsteps were fast and loud up the stairs, straight to my room. My door burst open. She didn't see me under the bed. She just slammed the door shut behind her and locked it. Then she grabbed the dresser, pulled it, pushed it against the door. I could hear her panting. And then, a new sound, not from Jess, but from the hallway. It was heavy and slow steps, coming toward the door. Jess backed up. I saw her feet and she was shaking. Then, suddenly a voice. It was low and calm from the other side of the door. "Come out." Jess didn't answer. She just stood there frozen. The voice came again. "I know you're in there." But it wasn't loud. It wasn't yelling, and that made it worse. It was like he wasn't in a hurry. Like he already knew how this was going to end. Under the bed, I felt tears in my eyes. I tried not to breathe too loud. Jess took a step back, then another. She reached for her phone, but her hands were shaking so bad she almost dropped it. The screen lit up her face. She started dialing. Then, bang. The door shook. I bit my lip to keep from screaming. Jess pressed the call button. The ringing started. The voice outside said, "Open it now and I won't hurt the kid." Jess's breath hitched. The call was still ringing. She whispered, "Please pick up." Then, the doorknob rattled. Then again harder. Then, silence. Jess was frozen, phone still to her ear. Then something worse. Something much worse. A new sound. A key. Sliding into the lock. Jess let out a shaky breath. Her eyes darted around the room. I could hear her whispering under her breath, "No, no, no." The lock clicked. The doorknob turned. The door pushed against the dresser, stopping just a little. Then, slowly, the pressure increased. The dresser started to slide. Jess grabbed it, bracing herself against it, pushing back with everything she had. The voice on the other side said, "That won't hold forever." Then silence. No more pushing. No more rattling. Just quiet. Jess looked at me, still hidden under the bed. "Stay there," she mouthed. Then she turned toward the window. She was going to try to escape. The window was only a few feet away, and Jess rushed toward it, her footsteps quick and frantic. She pulled open the curtains, her eyes scanning the dark yard below. The wind outside made the branches of the trees sway, their shadows stretching across the lawn like dark fingers. She pushed the window open, wincing at the screeching sound it made. Just as she was about to climb out, a voice broke the silence again. This time it wasn't outside the door. It was in the room, from the corner of the room where the shadows gathered. "Going somewhere?" Jess froze. Her hand, still on the windowsill, clenched tightly. The figure stepped forward from the shadows, tall and wide, but barely visible in the dim light. I could hear the low, rasping sound of his breathing. He was inside the room. How long had he been standing there? Her eyes locked on him, terrified but trying to keep it together. The phone was still pressed to her ear, the call still ringing. Don't come any closer," she whispered, her voice shaking. She backed away slowly, her eyes darting to the door, then to the window, but she knew she couldn't make it. The man smiled, a grin that stretched too wide. "I told you that door won't hold forever." And he was right. The dresser was still moving, inching slowly but steadily against the door, pushed by some unseen force, like it had a mind of its own. The man stepped closer, his footsteps slow but deliberate. I wanted to scream, to do something, anything, but I stayed frozen under the bed, my body trembling, my heart in my throat. Jess's phone buzzed in her hand again, a text message from the same number, "There's nowhere to run." She looked down at the phone, her face pale, her lips trembling. And then, just as the man reached out to grab her arm, a loud crash came from downstairs. The front door splintered open with a force that shook the whole house. Jess and the man both spun toward the sound. For a split second there was a chance, a fleeting moment of confusion. Jess acted fast. She pushed the man away with all her strength and dashed toward the window. Without thinking, she climbed out, her legs scrambling over the sill. The man let out a roar of frustration, but it was too late. Jess was gone. Downstairs, a voice rang out, clear, calm, authoritative. "This is the police. Anyone in the house, stay where you are." The man's footsteps echoed again, but this time they were retreating, heading toward the back door. The sound of the front door crashing open had caught him off guard, and now he seemed to be running. I heard the police officers enter the house. One of them called Jess's name. She was safe. The relief hit me so hard I almost cried. I stayed hidden, still under the bed, not sure if it was over or if something else was waiting for us in the dark. But then I heard the voice one last time. From the corner of the room, just before the door opened, the man's voice whispered, "This isn't over." And then everything went silent. The police found me shortly after, safe under the bed. They led me downstairs where Jess was sitting on the couch, her arms wrapped around herself. She was shaken but alive. When my mom came home, the officers told her everything, how the man had been watching the house for weeks, how he'd somehow gotten in without a trace. They said he wouldn't come back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, watching, waiting. And I knew one thing for sure, no matter what happened next, things would never be the same again.